Stop spending your Saturdays on your knees pulling weeds. Stop dumping money into herbicides that kill your soil. Stop pretending that next weekend will be different. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is just what gardening is, a never-ending battle. But here's what might shock you. Traditional Japanese gardens stay completely weed-free without hours of manual labor. They don't fight weeds. They designed them out of existence. Before we talk about solutions, you need to understand why your garden became a battlefield. This isn't your fault. You inherited a fundamentally broken system. Modern Western gardening copied industrial monoculture agriculture. That's a farm model designed for tractors, pesticides, and annual replanting. Rows of single crops, bare soil between plants, heavy fertilizer inputs, constant intervention. Think about it. Every spring, you till your beds. Plant in neat rows with spacing from seed packets. Mulch the pathways. Water on a schedule. And what happens? Weeds explode. Pests arrive. Your soil dries out in 3 days. You're spending 10 to 15 hours every month just maintaining stability. You never get ahead. You're trapped on the maintenance treadmill. Meanwhile, traditional Japanese gardens and indigenous food forests operated on completely different logic. They observed ecosystems. Forests don't have bare soil. Forest floors stay covered with ground covers, fallen leaves, low plants. Weeds can't germinate without light. The plants do the weeding. No human required. These systems asked a better question. Instead of, how do I kill weeds? They asked, how do I design a system where weeds can't establish? Prevention through relationships, not intervention through products. Here's the reality. Weeds are pioneer species. Their biological job is colonizing disturbed, bare soil. When you leave soil exposed, you're sending an invitation. Weed seeds lying dormant can survive 30 years waiting. The second you create bare soil, they germinate. You're not fighting weeds. You're fighting ecology. But here's what most people miss. If you eliminate bare soil, you eliminate the weed problem at the root. Ground covers block light. No light means no photosynthesis. Weed seeds starve before they break surface. Japanese moss gardens achieved this. Dense moss coverage, zero bare soil, zero weeding. The moss outcompetes everything else by occupying the niche first. Indigenous Three Sisters polycultures did the same. Corn grows tall. Beans climb the corn. Squash spreads across the ground with massive leaves, shading everything. The system fills every niche. No room for weeds, no space, no light, no opportunity. Meanwhile, your tomato plants sit in neat rows with 2 feet of bare soil between them. You designed the problem. Now let's talk about water. You're watering constantly because your soil can't hold moisture. Why? Bare soil again. When soil sits exposed to sun and wind, it crusts over. Water runs off instead of soaking in. The top 3 inches dry out in a day. Your plants stress. You water again. It's exhausting. Traditional systems solve this with living mulch. Ground covers shade the soil, keeping it moist. Their roots create channels for deep penetration. When they die back, they add organic matter right where it's needed. The soil builds itself. Polycultures create microclimates. Tall plants shade shorter plants. Dense plantings slow wind. Humidity stays higher. I've seen established food forests go 3 weeks without irrigation in summer. The design holds water passively. The third problem is pests. Monocultures are pest magnets. 20 tomato plants in a row. You're setting out a flashing neon sign for hornworms. Polycultures confuse them. Basil next to tomatoes masks the scent. Marigolds repel aphids. Nasturtiums act as trap crops. Diversity creates chaos for pests. They can't lock onto their target. Meanwhile, beneficial insects need habitat. Ladybugs, lacewings, parasitic wasps. They need nectar, pollen. pollen, shelter. Monocultures offer none of that. A polyculture becomes a beneficial insect paradise. They move in. They hunt. Your pest problems solve themselves. This is observation-based design. You're not fighting. You're arranging relationships that create automatic regulation. Think about the money. Herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, replacement plants, mulch every year, water bills, $300 to $500 annually maintaining a broken system. Now imagine cutting that to near zero. One-time investment in perennial ground covers and companion plants. After year one, the system maintains itself. Plant relationships handle fertility through nitrogen fixers. They handle pest control through diversity. They handle weeding through coverage. Your only job is harvesting. So why did we forget? Because the garden industry can't monetize self-sufficiency. If your garden regulates itself, you stop buying products. The entire model depends on your repeated failure. Now let's build the alternative. The foundation is ground coverage. If you take away nothing else from this video, remember this. Bare soil is your enemy. Every square inch of exposed dirt is an open invitation for weeds. Your first job is covering that soil with living plants that work for you. Start with perennial ground covers. White clover is the workhorse. It spreads fast, stays green, tolerates foot traffic, and here's the best part. It's a nitrogen fixer. Clover pulls nitrogen from the air and stores it in root nodules. When those roots die back or you chop the foliage, that nitrogen releases into soil. You're building fertility while suppressing weeds. Zero fertilizer bills. Creeping thyme forms fragrant carpets. Vinca works in shade. Ajuga spreads aggressively in problem areas. You plant once, they fill in over one season. Self-maintain forever. Now let's layer the system vertically. This is where Japanese forest gardens and indigenous polycultures show their genius. They didn't just cover the ground. They stacked functions at multiple heights. Think of your garden as a three-dimensional ecosystem. Ground layer is clover and thyme. Low layer is greens and herbs. Mid layer is tomatoes and peppers. Tall layer is corn or trellised beans. Each layer occupies a different niche. They're not competing. They're cooperating. The Three Sisters Guild is the classic example. Corn provides a living trellis. Beans climb the corn, fixing nitrogen that feeds the corn. Squash sprawls across ground with huge leaves, shading weeds and keeping soil moist. 3 plants, 3 functions, 0 weeds, 0 inputs. The system regulates itself. You plant once in late spring. You harvest all summer. The relationships do the work. Here's another proven combo: tomatoes, basil, clover. Tomatoes grow tall. Basil masks tomato scent from pests and attracts beneficial insects. Clover carpets ground, fixing nitrogen and preventing weeds. I've used this for 6 years. I weed maybe twice per season. Compare that to traditional tomato rows where you're weeding weekly. For fruit trees, plant comfrey in a ring around the trunk. Comfrey is a dynamic accumulator. Its deep taproot mines minerals from subsoil and brings them up. When you chop leaves and drop them as mulch, you're feeding the tree with nutrients it couldn't access on its own. Underplant with strawberries as ground cover. They spread, suppress weeds, and produce fruit. Add chives for pest confusion. You've just built a self-fertilizing, weed-suppressing, pest-resistant food forest in miniature. The plants handle it. But here's what most people get wrong when they first try polycultures. They plant too timidly. They leave big gaps between plants because seed packets say to space things 18 inches apart. Those spacing guidelines assume monoculture. Plant densely. Let plants touch. When foliage overlaps, you create a living canopy that shades weeds and holds moisture. Yields per plant might drop slightly, but yields per square foot skyrocket. Here's the mechanism. When plants grow close, roots intertwine. Some form symbiotic relationships with soil fungi, creating underground nutrient networks. The mycorrhizal network. Your plants communicate and share resources underground. They're stronger together. Think about a forest. Trees don't grow in neat rows with bare soil between them. They crowd together. The forest floor stays covered. There's no room for invasive weeds because every niche is occupied. You're building that structure in your yard. Never leave soil disturbed and empty. If you pull a plant, immediately replant or let ground covers fill in. Nature abhors a vacuum. Empty space gets colonized within days. Polycultures reduce water needs dramatically. Ground covers shade soil. Shaded soil loses moisture at 1/10 the rate of bare soil. Dense planting creates humidity under the canopy. Organic matter from living mulch increases water holding capacity. I water established polycultures once weekly in summer. My neighbors water daily and still see wilting. Their soil is dead, bare dirt crusted over. My soil is alive, covered, soft. Water soaks deep and stays. For limited water, add swales, a shallow ditch that catches water and lets it percolate slowly. Passive harvesting, no pumps, no infrastructure, just smart design. Nitrogen-fixing plants are your free fertilizer factories. Legumes like clover, beans, peas host bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen into usable forms. Every garden should have 30% nitrogen fixers distributed throughout. Chop and drop is your other fertility engine. Comfrey grows fast and tolerates repeated cutting. Every 6 weeks, I chop comfrey down to 6 inches. Drop leaves around tomatoes and fruit trees. Within 2 weeks, they break down. In-place composting. You're building soil. Now let's talk about scaling this to real-world constraints. You might be thinking, this sounds great for someone with acreage, but you're renting an apartment with a balcony, or you own a small suburban lot with HOA rules. Here's the reality. This system scales down beautifully. Containers, balconies, small yards, HOAS. The biology doesn't change. A 5-gallon bucket becomes a micro-ecosystem. Tomato in center, clover around base, basil at edges. You've just built a polyculture in a bucket. Water needs drop by half. Cluster containers together. They create shared microclimates. Humidity stays higher. Wind stress decreases. Add vertical trellises. Stack layers in 3 dimensions. Every square foot produces. Converting lawn? Start small. Pick a 10 by 10 section. Smother grass with cardboard and compost. Plant your polyculture. Let it establish 1 season. Next year, expand another section. Within 3 years, you've replaced useless lawn with a self-regulating food forest. For HOA front yards, use ornamental polycultures. Lavender, rosemary, thyme, sedums. Add echinacea and rudbeckia for color. You're still building the same weed-suppressing ecosystem. It just happens to be beautiful. Shade gardens work too. Ajuga, vinca, sweet woodruff thrive in shade. Pair with hostas, ferns, ramps. You're not fighting the shade. You're working with plants adapted to it. Group plants by water needs. Hydrozoning. Heavy drinkers together. Drought-tolerant plants separate. You're not wasting water on plants that don't need it. Water deeply once or twice weekly. Soak the soil thoroughly. This forces roots deep, searching for moisture. Deep-rooted plants tolerate drought. They access water reserves shallow-rooted plants can't reach. Companion planting confuses pests through scent masking. Interplant basil and oregano with tomatoes. Create a scent cloud. Pests can't lock onto the tomato signal through competing fragrances. They move on. Trap cropping sacrifices. Nasturtiums to save the rest. Aphids colonize nasturtiums. Your main crops stay clean. Every few weeks, cut the nasturtium down. Aphids die. New growth emerges. The cycle continues. Beneficial insects need three things: pollen, nectar, habitat. Diverse plantings provide all three. Parasitic wasps lay eggs in pests. Ladybugs and lacewings patrol constantly. You've recruited biological pest control. The insects do the work. Let's talk about the biggest mental shift you need to make. Stop chasing perfection. Self-regulating gardens look wilder. Plants intertwine. Ground covers spread. Some self-seeding happens. This isn't chaos. It's controlled abundance. You're guiding the system, not dictating every detail. If clover spreads into paths, that's fine. It's doing its job. If beans reseed themselves, you just save money. The garden becomes a partner, not a project. Year one requires setup. Planting ground covers, establishing guilds, mulching heavily. It's work, but it's one-time work. Year two, ground covers fill in. Weeds drop 70%. You're mostly harvesting and doing light maintenance. Year three and beyond, maintenance collapses to almost nothing, maybe 2 hours weekly in peak season. Compare that to 10 to 15 hours weekly maintaining a traditional garden. Real numbers from my garden. Year one, 60 hours total setup, 50 pounds harvest. Year two, 30 hours maintenance, 120 pounds. Year three, 20 hours, 180 pounds. Year four, 15 hours for the season. Yield steady around 170 to 200 pounds. I water once weekly. Weed 3 times per season. Quick spot checks. The rest is harvesting. Meanwhile, my neighbor with traditional rows spends every weekend weeding, watering, fighting pests. His yields are lower. His costs are higher. He's exhausted. I'm reading a book while my garden feeds me. That's the difference. Seed saving completes self-sufficiency. Let some plants go to seed. Collect, dry, store. Next year, plant them. After a few generations, seeds adapt to your specific conditions. Landrace varieties, uniquely suited to your garden. Some plants self-seed aggressively. Dill, cilantro, arugula. Let a few bolt. They scatter seeds. Next year, volunteers pop up. Free plants. Perennials eliminate the seeding question entirely. Asparagus, rhubarb, fruit trees. Once planted, they return every year. One investment yields 20 to 30 years of harvests. The financial math is staggering. Traditional gardening costs $300 to $500 yearly. Over 20 years, $6,000 to $10,000. Self-regulating systems cost $500 upfront. Then near zero. You're saving thousands while producing more food with less work. Think about that. Imagine next spring. Your neighbors are at the garden center buying flats of annuals, bags of fertilizer, jugs of pesticides. They're planning weekend weeding schedules. You're harvesting strawberries from 3-year-old plants. Your asparagus is producing. Your clover has greened up, suppressing weeds before they start. Your fruit trees are flowering. You'll water once this week. Maybe. If it doesn't rain, you've escaped the maintenance treadmill. You've built a system that gives time back instead of demanding it. That's the Japanese garden secret. That's what indigenous growers knew. Design prevents problems. Relationships create regulation.